You are about to see a snippet from a interview between Kamala Harris and Uncle Luke at American Southern rapper. This interview took place a few years ago, and the name of this interview was Defining Blackness: Real Talk with Kamala Harris and Uncle Luke. For those of you who do not know who Uncle Luke is, like I mentioned, he is a Southern rapper who has had a lot of his work from the early 90s. His highest grossing or most popular songs include Hoochie Mama, Me So Horny, It's Your Birthday, Pop That P. I'm not going to say the rest of that. Two Live, The F Shop, and I Wanna Rock. Now imagine this, right? One last thing. Imagine if there was a video and Marilyn Monroe was still alive and there's like defining whiteness and it's an interview with Marilyn Monroe. Would Marilyn Monroe be who you would want to be the face of defining whiteness? So I find this clip, before we even jump in, so ironic that this video article, there's an interview where it's named Defining Blackness, and Uncle Luke is the person that has been chosen to do the interview with. All right.
If you're not in the game
Yeah.
and you're just sitting on the sideline, you really don't understand the difference, the nuances, and the struggles of trying to do the right thing for our people. When I wrote the article about you, and I just outlined everything that every black man in the barbershop, black woman would talk about in the conversations, because I always go back to it because basically everything that everybody was saying about you, whether she's black enough, does she like black men? She's putting black people in jail. The common things that was actually said. But at the same time, I write that, and I didn't have a conversation with you. When we had the conversation and we talked about it, we talked about the different things. It was almost, and after the conversation, I felt like I was actually certifying you because we were talking about fried chicken and talking about all these different things. And then we talked about the gun and the FICA score and these different. So it was
That's
like,
right.
okay,
That's right.
it's like I like this lady. You know what I'm saying? She's about everything that we're about, the struggles and the things that we have to deal with on a daily basis as activists in our
That's right.
community.
That's
And so how did I come to that place? And then that's when I ended up writing the other article saying, okay, this is this.
Right.
Because, again, we get to the point where we prejudge a person. So then now I'm out here fighting the fight of the same thing I basically wrote, and I'm trying to convince people that, no, that was wrong. Let me ask you, so when you're campaigning and you're doing your strategies and everything, and you're trying to prove to African American women that you're black enough and African American men that you're black enough, you know who Kamala is.
Yeah.
You've been you forever.
Yeah, right.
And you lived a life and you lived in the neighborhood. You
That's
went to the
right.
black university. You lived a life as an African American. That have people question that. How you really
That's
feel
a great
about that?
question. It's very frustrating. That's a great question. Because to your point, exactly to your point, Uncle Luke, it is, I know who I am. I was raised to have pride. I mean, I could go on and on about
Right,
who
right,
I am,
right,
right?
right.
But and who I was born as, not just who I became. It wasn't like some process of enlightenment. Like
Right.
this has not been a process of discovery for me. In fact, I think the frustration is that other people want me to take them through their process of discovery
exactly.
about trying to understand.
Kamala, you really need to stop lying. You are not black. And the fact that you're sitting there pretending to be black so that you can get black votes and pretend to have a lifestyle that you know was not your lifestyle is so wrong on so many levels. Hello and welcome to Quee TV. I am your host, and today we're going to jump right into it. Kamala Harris has been pretending to be a Black woman for at least the last 4 years. Check out this speech, one of many, that talks about her upbringing as a half Black, half Indian child.
You see a lot when you're the firstborn. I saw my mother and how she worked hard, and she was full of pride and would never want anyone to ever pity her. She never complained about anything. But I also knew how she suffered. I knew how she stayed up late at night trying to figure things out. She was a brown woman with an accent. I remember going into, a store and us being followed. I remember how people would look at my mother and make certain assumptions about her intelligence or her capacity or her right to belong. As the eldest child, you see this. My mother was very well aware that she was raising 2 Black girls to be 2 Black women. And she did that instilling in us pride in our culture.
And see, when you watch this video, this is where she gets caught up in the lie, right? This is just a bold-faced lie. So she was raised by her Indian mother, who's Indian. Her father was not around at this time. And she says that her Indian mother was raising them to be 2 Black women. And she gets to this point to talk about the culture. But how can the culture be Black culture if she was raised by her Indian mother? The only thing Black or brown is her skin. So if raised by an Indian mother, there's no way that you can have a Black cultural background when your mom is Indian. You have a Indian cultural background. And if you're going to say, oh, raised with both sides, how is it possible to be raised with both sides if your father wasn't around? Unless you're saying that your dad was around when you were a little kid and that he's actually Black, there's no way at all in this story is it possible for you to have had a Black experience as being raised by an Indian mother. You're just sitting there lying, just bold-faced lying to people right now. And that's what pisses me off.
And cultures, always knowing that we would face all kinds of obstacles, but she never let us believe that anything could get in the way of our dreams or pursuits. My sister Maya is 2.5 years younger.
Fun fact about, Maya Harris. Maya Harris was a former political commentator at MSNBC for a year and a half. She worked for them, I believe, between 2017 and 2018. Isn't that so ironic? Must be really nice to have your sister work for the org that you just did a interview for less than a week ago. I just wonder whether or not she knew these people. Come on, stop it. Just stop it.
So at the age of 2.5, I was told, look after your sister. And it is something that is very much a part of just who I am, which is that look after those who need your support or need your help. And that has been what has motivated me to do the work I've done, to look after and protect people.
Kamala's mother was a scientist. Her father, a professor. That is not to say that there aren't Black people that are scientists or professors. But this story of single mom raising 2 kids, what did mommy do for a living? And that does matter. That's a different cultural experience of how your days are spent. When she's painting the story of being Black and raised by a Black person, that's the story of what she assumes would have been a tough, hard life of trying to survive. Cut it. You had a good upbringing. Stop lying. Stop pretending that it was a struggle culture. For mommy to buy a house when you're in like middle school, high school, if mommy all alone, single mama, all alone was able to buy a house, in the 70s? When 70s, when you were still a teenager, you know how many cannot buy houses on one salary. That's what I'm saying. This argument is not the same. You're trying to relate to a group that you're not part of with pieces of stories that aren't the same experience. But whatever. That's like blackface. You are wearing blackface, pretending to be black, pretending to have the black experience, and you know doggone well that has not been your experience. Check out this clip from Candace Owens. If you don't follow her, you should totally follow her. Check out this clip from Candace Owens.
Our story. We keep arriving at the Donald J. Harris problem. This is what we need to really focus all of our attention to, because we don't have any birth certificate for him, despite the fact that we have birth certificates for everyone else around him. We've got birth certificates for his uncles. We have birth certificates for his father. We have birth certificates for every single person in his orbit. We have birth certificate for Vioris. There's no reason. It's very clear that they had no troubles keeping records in this family. But there's no birth certificate for Donald J. Harris. We also cannot find a marriage certificate for him. So we mentioned to you guys yesterday, we found a marriage announcement here in Jamaica. We also found a marriage announcement near Oakland. The announcement, we've also seen an entry for the divorce. An entry, by the way, we still have not been able to find a divorce docket. We're looking for it in the court system. It should be there. But why does he not have any concrete documents? Where is their actual marriage certificate? There was an announcement, by the way, for an annulment. Also published near Oakland that they had filed for an annulment in 1971. But again, we cannot locate the marriage certificate, and I find that to be problematic.
That it matters whether or not she's black or not is because if you built an entire campaign on a color and you supposedly being a certain race, and then people find out at the last minute that you lied about the race that you said you were, you're a liar. That just makes you a whole liar. That makes you a whole liar. And if you voted for Kamala because you felt the camaraderie because she's black or she's perceived to be black, and then you find out, oh, she's actually Indian, you might be saying, oh, well, it doesn't matter. She's mad cool. You know, even if she's Indian, it don't matter because, you know, yeah, she's not black. But she lied to you. She sat there and lied in your face to pretend to be like you. And then once you got comfortable with her, then she felt comfortable telling you the truth. It might seem like a small thing, but that is a huge thing. This person lied dead in your face about who they were. And now they make you think that y'all have something in common and y'all don't. The reason that it matters whether or not she's black, because by her saying that she was black, she's trying to say that, oh, you know, I have camaraderie with you. I went through the same experiences as you. But if you're an Indian woman, you did not go through the same experiences as me. You went through, even though we have the similar colored skin, we are not the same. We don't have the same background, the same cultural upbringing. It's not just about color. It's about the cultural upbringing. People voted for her thinking that she's black, thinking that she had the same cultural upbringing. And that is why she goes to these meetings and keeps saying these same things about her middle class family and a single mom and all this other foolishness, because she thinks that those are the things that black people go through. And I find that to be very disrespectful, to pretend that you have this crazy like life or struggle when you know you did not have this crazy life or struggle. Kamala lying about her race is equivalent to somebody lying about whether or not they have a background, a jail background or not, right? This is not against anybody that's been to jail. This is not about that. But imagine you went there and or matter of fact, you have a business and you put on your application that, you know, somebody's filling out an application, and on the application that says, have you been convicted of a felony? Do you have a record, a jail record? And that person goes and that person says, no, I don't have a jail record. I'm clean. You go, they get the job. 6 months later, 7 months later, a year later, they're still working at, you do a background check, you find out that yes, they did have a criminal background. They didn't put that on their application, but they're a good worker. You have two choices. You can either keep them and say, you know, whatever, it is what it is. They had what they want. I know they didn't have, you know, it was a mistake, whatever. Or you could say, you know what, I'm gonna let you go, not because you're a bad person, but because you lied to me. You lied to my face, pretending that you didn't have that thing that you have. So out of respect or you just trust, the trust is broken. How can I trust you if you sat there and you lied to me about something about whether or not you had a record? The person lied about certain things, like Kamala's lying, because she knows that if she was to tell the truth about her race, it will impact certain people, how they perceive her, how they see her. So she's not going to tell the truth. But it does matter. It does matter whether or not she is who she says that she is. This is a person who is saying that she wants us to give her a chance, see how things are run. Like, but you're there already. You're already in the office. And then people say, oh, well, she says she's in office, but Joe Biden's in charge. So it's not like she's really in charge of anything. But check out those clips. Like, I'm gonna put a clip up. Check out this clip.
You ask people what are your top issues, and they say we're concerned about our border. I mean, she was the border czar. The numbers skyrocketed. She was supervising a policy that ended up. Right now, there's 3,000 people coming in a caravan.
No, look,
she was going after our Customs and Border Patrol agents. She was going after ICE.
You want to be factual and substantive,
those are all
and I
factual.
appreciate that. That is a good instinct. So she wasn't the border czar. She was assigned to work to go to the countries that were the source of these immigrants and try and work with them to remove inducements for people to come here. But she never was the border czar.
I'm just going to pause this here for a moment because I want you to listen to what just happened. She was in charge of going to these different locations where the immigrants came from to, try to understand what was going on. All right, maybe czar is a hard word to say, but if you're managing the situation in a specific place in charge of trying to understand the root cause and resolve it, right? But then again, what was the intention? Is it to stop them from coming? Is it to see why they're coming? All right, once we find out why 10 million people are in our country, now what? Do we say no more? Do we say what happens next? Like, what was the plan? And I would just want to know what the plan is. All right, back to the video.
She wasn't in charge of the border. You will call her that, and she's going to have to contend with that. You're going to have to contend with the fact that when the president and the vice president was on that team, agreed with the most conservative or one of the most conservative members of the Senate on a bill that would have been the strictest border bill that we've seen in decades, that the thing was blown up because Donald Trump said, we want the issue, don't solve the problem.
Okay, so for a moment, I'm going to pause here real quick because I have to fact check that. I had to fact check that. What they're saying, and this is not the first time I've heard this, what they're saying is that your active campaign running and say, I was trying to block something from the border. Donald Trump was able to talk to people and make it stop. I don't understand that because the guy's not in office. So you're saying that an outside opponent was able to sway the decision of people within the government to decide whether or not things are going to move forward? You got to show me some proof because that's a heavy thing to say. So I'm taking a moment. I just got to know, what is this bill that they are saying that Donald Trump was blocking? A person that is not in the government's office right now. What is this bill that is supposedly would have been the strongest bill in decades? Let's check it out. Let's go see what this is. The bill is S4361, Border Act of 2024. This is the bill that Kamala is saying that Trump is blocking, right? It was just introduced to the Senate May 16th of this year, so a few months ago. And this is how the bill goes. The bill expands Department of Homeland Security's authority to address the processing of non-U.S. nationals, aliens under federal law, and provides supplemental appropriations for related purposes. Among other provisions, the bill provides DHS, which is Department of Homeland Security, emergency authority to summarily remove or prohibit the entry of certain non-U.S. nationals within 100 miles of the southwest land border. DHS may exercise this authority if DHS encounters an average of 4,000 non-U.S. nationals within a 7-day period. If the number of encounters reaches certain higher thresholds, DHS must exercise the emergency authority. This emergency border authority expires after 3 years and may be notified by the president under specified circumstances. Next, the bill establishes an expedited process that authorizes asylum officers to adjudicate certain asylum claims. Among other provisions, these provisional non custodial removal proceedings impose certain target timelines for determining asylum claims and limit review of denied claims. This bill also establishes a stricter threshold for individuals to remain in the United States pending adjudication of an asylum petition. The bill expands and establishes immigration pathways for Afghan citizens or nationals, including by one, making certain individuals admitted or parolee to the United States eligible for conditional permanent resident status, and two, expanding eligibility for special immigration visas for certain individuals who were injured while supporting the U.S. mission in Afghanistan. The bill also increases base pay for asylum officers and grants DHS temporary direct high authority to hire personnel to implement the bill. So this is the bill that Kamala is saying that Trump is blocking and stopped from being pushed through, and this is causing a riffraff. But that still doesn't explain how is he doing this? Someone tell me how he's able to influence the decisions of the government if he's not in the government. And why would his influence be more than your influence? Push it through. Like, what are you guys really saying? All right. Back to the original video.
She's got to stay on the attack, and she will stay on the attack. And I think that underscores something about Trump that they're going to have to deal with, which is this is a guy who thinks about Trump first all the time, even on a matter that he says is of urgent importance to the country.
This administration, they stopped construction of the border wall. They got rid of Remain in Mexico. They got rid of Title 42 without a replacement. They ramped up catch and release. These were policies of this administration. It's going to be very hard for Kamala Harris right now to say, I wasn't the border czar. I'm not responsible for these policies. She hasn't spoken up at all against the implementation of any of this, saying that she disagrees with any of it.
Is lying about who they are. For them to lie about who they are, they're lying about the experiences that they are saying that they had for us. That matters. Now, somebody would say it was this if I pull up that interview where she just did that interview with that lady from MSNBC, and the lady from MSNBC did an interview, and it was like, it doesn't matter whether or not, because politicians, they lie, that's just, she's a politician at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter about her policies. Huh?
Stephanie Ruhle, NBC News senior business analyst, host of the 11th Hour, joins me now. Stephanie, can I just say that was a great interview, and I thought you pressed her on really important stuff. It was also, I just thought the whole thing was refreshingly substantive. This was you can say I don't like that policy or I do like that policy, but it really was about here, the earth we live in, the kinds of decisions you're going to make. And it wasn't pie in the sky stuff. So very, very well done job. Let me just start by saying that.
Okay, well, I'm just going to sit here and soak in those compliments, so we don't have to talk about anything else. But I think what you're actually complimenting is that it was a normal interview, Chris. That's actually what it was. It was a normal interview. It was a person running to be the president of the United States, and for 25 minutes, we talked about their vision and we talked about policy. And I think you just said it right there. At the end of the day, it's A-okay if you don't like her policies, right? She made it very clear. Yep. If you make over $400,000 a year, next year, when the individual tax cuts expire, she's going to raise your taxes. So if you're someone who just votes on that, well, then you know what you're doing. You don't want to vote for her. And I think that it's just that we're so desensitized in that so many interviews that we do, we're forced to cover so much lunacy or so much crazy or so much fact checking or get distracted by so many issues that aren't poor policies that serve the American people. What you saw right there was just a sort of a classic interview with somebody running for president.
I thought the point that there's a number of really interesting exchanges. I thought the exchanges on tariffs was really interesting, particularly where you said, look, which is true. I think people think we live in this free trade era, which we do compared to previous, but there's also lots of tariffs on lots of stuff. Presidents have unbelievable unilateral authority to apply them. I remember George W. Bush doing this on aluminum and steel. I remember, obviously, Trump did it. Joe Biden, as you noted, he basically said, look, where are you? And I thought her answer was interesting, which is basically well, it kind of depends, right? But we're not going to throw up a 20% tariff around the whole country, which is not a serious idea.
But I think that's the important part, sort of the nuance, because I'm going to be honest. President Biden has tariffs in place. He's held a lot of Donald Trump's tariffs in place. And the White House doesn't like to talk about it. They don't like it when you ask them about it, because everybody has gotten in this zone of like, Trump's the tariff guy. We're not the tariff people. We're here on the other side. And what she did right there is kind of explain that it's complicated, right? We're a country of 330 million people. Our economy is complicated, right? In the same way, is the economy good or bad? It totally depends. So tariffs, if used in the right places, can work. And one could watch that and say, well, she didn't give a clear, direct answer. That's okay, because we are not talking about clear or direct issues.
Then what in the world are we talking about? All right, so that's it for today. I hope you like this video. If you do, don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Bye.